Okay, let's make sure that you've got all three documents that you'll need for today's analysis. The first is the 2012-2013 Adequate Yearly Progress Data Record Sheet. This is the sheet on which we will write down the data from the analysis of your forms. The next form you want to make sure that you have in front of you is your own school's 1999 to 2012 Academic Progress Report. This report, remember, can be downloaded from the RCOE website and includes all the Adequate Yearly Progress Report data on your school from 1999. The final report that you want to make sure you have in front of you is your own school's estimated 3-year high-stakes testing profile from key data systems. The document you see in front of you right now is from XYZ Elementary School. It's a school that will remain nameless, and I'll be talking about their data as we analyze your data at the same time. We'll use this to guide you through the process. Okay, so we're back at the AYP data record sheet. At this time, if you'd go ahead and write in your school name here and your team members here, I'll preview what's on this record sheet. The first thing we'll talk about is adequate yearly progress, what it's composed of. Then we'll talk about API and how your school's performed on API compared to the county means on the right side of this document. Then we'll get into ELA, English Language Arts and Math, especially in terms of the CST performance. And that'll take us to the back side, and we'll talk about whether or not your school is widening or narrowing the achievement gap. You'll recall with No Child Left Behind, the point is to narrow the achievement gap between white students and their less advantaged peers. The graduation rate we won't be doing today. That's a high school factor, so we won't be covering that. Then we'll shift to the KDS, the Key Data Systems 3-year profile on the CELT. That's this California English Language Development Test. And we'll look at your data compared to county means. We'll also be doing some analysis in which areas of the subtests of the CELT you were strongest and weakest in. And we'll take a look at how also your grade levels, grade spans performed against county means as well on this section 12. Finally, we'll look at safe harbor goals and what it takes for your school to make its safe harbor goals. Okay, I have scrolled back to the top of the document, and you'll see at the very top, you'll see Academic Progress Report, and then you'll see where it says Adequate Yearly Progress Components. Adequate Yearly Progress is made up of 4 components. The first is the API, and the benchmark for the API is that your school scores a minimum of 740 or scores 1 point in growth. We'll show you in a second where you can locate that. Your tests, when it comes to participating, all your kids, as many as possible, need to participate. In fact, you need to test 95% of each significant subgroup. Next is the proficiency rate in English Language Arts and Math. The target here is 78.4% in English Language Arts and 79% in Math. Or you can do what's called Safe Harbor, which we'll be talking about shortly. Finally, for high schools, there's the graduation rate. Just so you know, a graduation rate is met or exceeded 90%, or you met or the fixed or variable rate target. And since today we're not a group of high school folks, we won't be dealing with this. Okay, here is a sample accountability progress report, and we'll call this the XYZ school. It's the sample school. And here's how you can find the components that we just got through talking about. API is located up here. This is a state measure. API was established in 1999 under the California Accountability Index. I just blew that one. Well, let's clarify that. That was the Public Schools Accountability Act that was done in 1999, and that is a California measure of how well our schools are doing. And we've had that measure up until 2012. Any place you see a green marker on this matrix here, a school has made its API, or Academic Performance Index. Any place you see an orange marker is where a school did not make its API, or Academic Performance Index score. So you have a record of how well your schools did on the state measure of performance. You'll remember that the second element of AYP was the participation rate. It shows right here whether or not the school made a participation rate of testing 95% of each of your subgroups. And in this case, you can see XYZ school scored a yes in both math and an English language art participation rate. The last section of adequate yearly progress is your English language arts proficiency and your mathematics proficiency. And the target that was set up when No Child Left Behind was established are set up here. They're called annual measurable objectives. Back in 2002, the objective was 13.6% of our kids to be proficient in English language arts. You'll see that that lasted 3 years, 1, 2, 3, and it bumped up to 24.4% proficient, and it stayed the same for 3 years. Then in 2008, it bumped up to 35.2%, and every year since, it's gone up about 11% or 11 percentage points until in 2012, it reached 78.4. That was the target that was established for schools to meet the proficiency in English language arts. You see similar math proficiencies across the board here. AMO, annual measurable objective in mathematics, was higher for the first 3 years. In 2003, 16% for these first 3 years. Then it bumped up to 26.5 for 3 years. And then 37, 47, you can see about 11 points each year. You can see these targets graphically on the graphs that are on the right side of your screen. This red line corresponds with the annual measurable objectives that I just pointed out to you. And then you can see right here, for example, in language arts, how it goes up 11 points each year. These are the targets that were established for No Child Left Behind. And finally, there's one more indicator up here that tells you if you've made all the criteria. Right here, it'll say, did you meet all AYP criteria? And for each year, you'll see a yes or a no. And you'll notice for XYZ school, for the longest time, they missed. 2009, they made all the criteria. They were hoping to get out of PI, but then they missed in 2010, 2011. But 2012, once again, you'll notice they made all their AYP criteria. What are they? That API score. They made their participation rate. They made all of their subgroup scores here for adequate yearly, for making percent proficient. So next step is, how did you guys do? And let's take a look at your own APR in the next video.